history this morning, 5:30 a.m. on Wednesday, that Donald Trump has won the presidency for a second time. This time after having served for 4 years, then disputing the 2020 election, and then, of course, rallying a mob.
America, you've chosen your guy, you've chosen your man, you've chosen your president. You have given Donald Trump 4 more years. You have given him a mandate. Let him do what he said he was going to do. And we will be here again in 4 years to come. Hopefully, this time around, he's going to do something good. You guys have chosen him. You guys elected him. And there is your president.
To the Capitol to try to interrupt the peaceful transfer of power there. Americans deciding to send him back to the White House for a second term. And Jeff Duncan, as we mark this moment, I do want to take a second to reflect on that reality, because there was a point in the wake of what happened on January 6th where the Republican Party had a choice about what to do. They could have decided to convict him in his impeachment trial, which would have prevented him from...
A lot of people said his way was not going to win him the White House, but he stuck with his guns. He said, no, I am going to do it the Donald J. Trump's way. I am going to go brutal. Donald Trump had no feelings. Donald Trump he didn't care. As long as he got the result that he won, he did not care. And guess what? He did it.
Again, in the future, they didn't do that. Kevin McCarthy went down to Mar-a-Lago, posed with Donald Trump, and it was the beginning of what would become another run for him to the presidency. And of course, now we know how that has turned out. Yep. Considering what you lived through, what the country lived through, what do you think it says about us as a country that we're here?
Well, I want to start by just a heartfelt congratulations or a sincere congratulations to Donald Trump. I've worked for 4 years to try to not elect him as a candidate for our party and also as president, but he's won the race and he's won it the hard way. I never would have thought we would have been here. I think tens of millions of Americans, including Republicans, never thought we would have been here. You just add up all of the baggage along the way on the time in office and the time out of office. It's uncomfortable for somebody like me who is a lifelong conservative to watch this happen, but it is what it is. I think the ball's in his court. What's he going to do with this? Is he going to wreck the car because he wants to and because he can? Is he going to sow chaos and confusion and build anger? Or is he going to actually take the time to try to fix stuff? And he's that one personality that can actually do this. Like if he just changed course and just tried to work across the aisle and put a Nikki Haley in his cabinet, showed a propensity to work with people that he doesn't agree with, it would send shockwaves through this country in a positive way.
Well, considering he couldn't campaign
right, I was going to say,
what do we think?
That doesn't seem to be his mojo, right? That's not his deal, right? He doesn't kind of heal and bring people together and say, okay, now let's come together and move forward. And I think, Jeff, you said something earlier about solving problems. What concerns me is I don't think he cares about really solving problems except for the most expedient one of not going to jail, basically. I mean, when he was talking about tariffs, what have we heard? That's going to bring inflation back up. It's going to be bad for the economy and bad for jobs. So even some of the things, if he enacts some of the things he's talked about, mass deportations, what is that going to mean in the day-to-day lives in our country and the damage that could do? And I hear what folks are saying about, I agree, America, this is what you want, this is what you got, this is who you are. Yep. And yet we will have to live with the consequences if he does plan to and actually move forward.
My only concern with this is, what if there is a federal ban on abortion? A lot of women are going to die. A lot of women are going to die. So I pray he doesn't do that. I pray he doesn't do that. Please, please, please. Do whatever you want, but just allow women to decide what they want to do with their own body. Women are not deciding what men should do with their own body. So why are men trying to decide what women should do? Please, Donald Trump, do whatever you want. Sell Ukraine to Russia. But please allow women to be their own boss. Allow women to do whatever they want to do with their own body. It's up to them. They go through the pain. They know, they know how hard it is. They are the ones who are responsible for their own body. Please allow them.
On enacting, we could have a national abortion ban. Women are going to have to deal with it. So that's what my concern is. I don't think he's someone who's going to try to bring people together or try to work across the aisle. And given the way things seem to be going with the congressional races, he may not have to.
I used a hopeful tone.
But wait a minute.
I know,
You
you
used
were
a
hopeful.
hopeful tone.
Let's give
I know
Michael.
we always talk about these things of bringing people together, and I don't know if that's necessarily the aims of politics. You need dissension. You need two parties going back and forth. Did President Biden bring the country together after 3.5 years? I know a whole lot of Republicans who would say, hell no. When you spent 3.5 years criticizing these people, calling them racist, calling them bigots, referring to them as uneducated. And now they've won.
Trump
They've
also
shown
said they were
force. They've won.
uneducated. No, you cannot blame Biden on that one. Trump said we love our own poorly educated. Trump said that. People always pick on things that you guys say. But anyway, you won, so you can say whatever you want to say.
They've rejected the elitism that comes out of Washington, D.C. They've rejected the elitism that has come from Republican establishment, and they've made it clear we want to go in a different direction. And I don't know why we keep ignoring this reality. Donald Trump won again by a very sizable margin for a reason, Casey. And I think to minimize the concerns that people continue to say they have about our party establishment, Jeff, about the Democratic Party establishment is not going to change things. What propelled this man to the White House in 2016 is still there.
Run it again.
It is still there. And I think it's incumbent
I
upon the
didn't see
leaders
that
in both
coming. I
parties
had
to
a
figure
feeling
out what
that
they need to
was
do to serve those grievances.
I think
One thing, sorry.
No, go ahead, Alex.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, one thing that sources are saying to me is it wasn't just that Republicans rehabilitated Donald Trump, but Democrats, including most especially the Biden White House, gave him an opening to come back. The fact is that Joe Biden, when inflation was coming back, they were very dismissive of concerns. They called it transitory. When it looked there was a potential for COVID to come back in the form of Delta and Omicron, they held a celebration in the White House South Lawn, called it Independence from COVID Day. There was Afghanistan. There was the denial and dismissiveness about the border was not a crisis. And all of those governing issues, they treated it in some ways. This is what I'm just reflecting.
This is the first time that the Professor Alan Lichtman, his prediction has failed. So this year has been a special year. His prediction failed this time around. And that is because you've got Donald J. Trump. The man is different.
The views of people within the administration, as they're reflecting on tonight, they now feel that the administration sometimes treated it as a PR problem.
By the way, I'm just going to say congratulations to Donald Trump. You have done it. You won. It was a fight. You fought the way you know how to fight, and you won. So there's nothing anybody can say. Don't blame anybody. Donald Trump fought the way he knew how to fight, and he won the battle. Now it's for us to carry on living, just hoping that, I wish him all the best anyway. There's nothing I can say. I wish him all the best.
Instead of an actual governance.
Well, and it absolutely created that opening. What we saw in polling during the Republican primary was that the primary message being used against Trump by his opponents, by Ron DeSantis, by Nikki Haley, was Donald Trump's gonna lose. He's a surefire loser. Go with me. I can be a winner. And yet in every poll I saw, when you asked Republican voters, who do you think has the best chance to beat Joe Biden? They'd say Donald Trump. Do you think that Donald Trump will beat Joe Biden? Those numbers were through the roof. Republicans felt confident that in a Donald Trump versus Joe Biden matchup, that Donald Trump was going to wipe the floor with Joe Biden. And that's why they felt confident saying, I like Donald Trump. You're not scaring me with this argument that he's going to lose. I think he's a winner. And they went ahead with him as their candidate.
One of the things that we also need to reflect on is Donald Trump is a very, very, very flawed man. And I don't think that can be lost on where we are today. I mean, you literally have someone who I don't want to run down the resume of who Donald Trump is in terms of the felonies and, inciting an insurrection and criminal charges that most likely now will go away because he now controls the Department of Justice, or, the things with Stormy Daniels, or all of these things that are kind of baked into the cake. But as a country, you asked a very big question, Casey. We became numb to the lack of character that is Donald Trump. And it's fascinating to me because I know religious conservatives who will go to the mat for Donald Trump. And that's what I don't necessarily understand. Somebody's going to have to explain to me, particularly the white male evangelical, and what we saw today were white women come out. I think that the missed bet for Kamala Harris was betting that white women would support her in a way unlike how we felt they left Hillary Clinton at the altar in 2016. We thought that was going to be vastly different, but in fact it wasn't. Rural white women, college-educated white women, suburban white women, all those white women we thought in those wild counties that Phil we're talking about, they just didn't come home. And the question is, when you have someone who is as fundamentally flawed, there is no one around this table, there is no one who literally with good common sense would say...
because Donald Trump is different. Donald Trump is not like you and me. Donald Trump is one of a kind. Seriously, he's one of a kind.
I want my child to grow up and be like Donald Trump.
But I think as everybody goes through this election and is trying to figure out what could have gone differently, I am sure there's going to be a lot of instinct to say, gosh, if only we just told Americans more of how Donald Trump was a terrible person and so and so. And I just think you have enough voters who are telling us in the exit polls, I don't like Donald Trump personally, but I'm voting for him anyways. I think
I hear you. I'm looking at... I was just trying to answer, Case. I hear you. For politically, it's what you're saying is politically prudent. But you asked, what questions do we learn as a country? And we literally have one of the most fundamentally flawed men that we've ever put in a position of power back there again. And all I have to do is point to the rhetoric, not from Democrats. I'm not making this up. I can point to the rhetoric from Republicans on January 7th and talk about what type of man this is.
Anyway, you guys have made your choice. You guys have your president. Let's see how it goes. Hopefully it goes well, because the world also will be affected if anything goes wrong. Donald Trump has won. He's defeated all of us, and we bow down to Donald Trump. King Donald J. Trump, here he comes.